10 episodes. It was 10 episodes. I don't think I ever expected such a well thought out and emotional anime to come from a measly 10 episodes, but here we are. I'm a little late to the party as I just got around to watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners last week, and as it has a 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes and it won Anime of the Year at the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, you don't need me to tell you that this anime is amazing. So much beauty and depth in so many different ways, all stuffed into 10 episodes. Probably the most obvious way is the art style. It's loose and exaggerated, courtesy of Studio Trigger. If you have never seen a Studio Trigger production, you may not notice their signature art style, which may seem extremely cartoonish at first, and it is, but I feel like it helps add a punch to the animation, if that makes sense. But somehow, they managed to up their game an incredible amount, with other scenes being as crisp and as refined as the animation you'd find in an anime film. The art in this anime is just something that I couldn't help but be constantly immersed in whilst watching, with so many scenes having me in awe. And the way they worked with Project Red to try and capture the essence of Cyberpunk 2077 was a nice touch, as even though it's 2D animation, I could still feel the aura of Night City, especially since they even animated certain parts of Night City to draw even more connections between the anime and the video game, keeping it extremely faithful to the original work. So if you need a refresher about Edgerunners, Cyberpunk Edgerunners is a story about a kid named David who lives in a dystopian form of America about 50 years in the future from now. This anime is also a precursor to the events that take place in Cyberpunk 2077, just to get a sense of where it is in the Cyberpunk timeline. It's a story about David's attempt at making his rise to the top, the people he meets, the adventures he undertakes, but it also goes over the people he loses and his shortcomings. While David can be considered a fairly cliche main character, which is often a criticism I see made about him, that doesn't make him any less likable. So much so that the driving force in this anime for me was the hope that David would eventually come out on top of everything, even if it kind of is foreshadowed that he wouldn't, with his dream being that he wants to fulfill the dreams of others, as opposed to fulfilling his own dream. He's selfless and naive, which are also common main character tropes. However, this anime leaning into these tropes doesn't rub me the wrong way. On the contrary, it kind of makes sense, as 10 episodes for the entire story that Edgerunners wants to tell is not a lot, so simplifying certain parts of the story to make room for fleshing out other parts helps the anime grow and allows the audience to create attachments with the characters in this short time. If I were to have any problem with this anime, then it would be the fact that it is only 10 episodes. Of course, every anime fan wishes that their favorite anime was longer, as you want to try and scrape more enjoyment out of it, even if the anime did end at a good spot. However, this is one of the only anime that I can comfortably say would 100% benefit from more episodes. Many of the naysayers that write this anime off as just an alright experience seemed to not be as connected to the characters as the rest of us, that somehow found the experience different. This is one of the great things about art, is that it's subjective and people can find enjoyment in different things, but I digress. 10 episodes is short for even a TV show, but it is almost unheard of for an anime series. They could have fleshed out the characters' relationships more, gone into more detail about characters like Dorio or Rebecca, which I know many people enjoyed Rebecca's character especially. Shout out to the Rebecca fanboys, she deserved better.
We're having a moment here! Lock down! Lock down! Lock down!
They could have expanded on the Cyberpunk world even more, because even though we literally have an entire sandbox of the world to play around with at our fingertips, I wouldn't be crazy to say that seeing it in a different medium, that being anime, is intriguing to myself and many others. David was an extremely lovable and semi-relatable main character for many, so being able to see more of his adventures and more development is something that I also would have wanted to see. Basically, every aspect of the anime could have most likely been improved with more episodes. Music was something that did extremely well regardless of the episode count. Being able to hear songs that were present within the game placed so well within the anime, the animators definitely did their homework. An alternative rock piece like Who's Ready for Tomorrow fits perfectly within the first episode to show the day-to-day life of someone who lives at the bottom of Night City. Someone like David is perfectly complemented by this track. But of course, we all know what track is the highlight of the anime for most people. I Really Want to Stay at Your House. The song that many vibe to in the original game, thinking it lighthearted with a nice beat to bob your head to, turned into a tear fest because of the underlying tones applied to it now. Sadness is all that comes to mind when this song plays, but still a slight tone of freedom and happiness, as not everything was sad when this song came on. The strive for freedom and happiness seems to be everyone's dream in Night City, whether that be through money or killing, but this song is the perfect embodiment of it. This song is so good that I've had it in my playlist ever since watching the anime. There is one song though that I don't see getting as much recognition as the others, and it probably has to do with that it was more for ambiance, if that makes sense. It had me bursting at the seams with anxiety. Episode 6 is what I'm referring to. The song's called, and sorry if I butcher the pronunciation, Zurawie by Wydech. That sounded terrible. I'm so sorry. It's probably like an Eastern European language. I'm not too sure, but this song was also in the base game, but I didn't hear it in the base game until I looked up what radio station it was on. But if you want to talk about perfect song placement in a piece of work, then look no further than this song. If you don't remember, this was the song that was playing at the time of Maine's cyberpsychosis, when everything was going down. The build-up of this entire episode, it was clear that Maine was chromed up too much, and after the death of Dorio, he finally slipped fully into his psychosis. That's when this song starts playing. It carries all the way through to David finding Maine and urging him to leave. However, it is clear to Maine, even in his crazed state, that it is too late for him, in which he utters his final words to David.
No more running for me, dog. Reaper's finally calling my name. This is it. It's the end of the line for me. But not for you. Fast is what you do best, ain't it? Just keep running.
This episode, to be honest, is probably in my top 3 favorite episodes of any anime that I've ever watched. The way this episode progresses and gradually gets more hectic, capping off with this amazing piece of music to fully drag in the feels, and the gravity of the situation that David and the rest are experiencing. Every episode before this was well done, with a nice pacing and the characters that I found enjoyment in, with an intriguing story and obviously very nice art. However, this episode was what did it for me. The first episode that showed what Edgerunners is truly capable of. This episode was fucking brilliant from beginning to end and truly solidifies this anime as top tier. Even though I think episode 6 was potentially the best episode out of this anime, episode 10 was a fitting end that shouldn't be understated. Throughout the entire anime, there was an anxiety present within me that I couldn't shake. As much as I wanted David to achieve his own goals, it was clear he was dead set on accomplishing other people's dreams. So much so that he was metaphorically and literally willing to tear himself apart in the process. I even hated going to the next episode, that being episode 7, and seeing how much David had chromed up and how much he had committed to staying with the crew to complete more jobs, because I didn't want him to repeat Maine's mistake. However, this was just another way of completing someone else's dream, that being Maine's, where he would continue where Maine failed. I wanted David to succeed. I wanted him to come out on top in some way, but the foreshadowing for his death was just too apparent. And near the end, I even found myself hoping that he would die, as they had leaned into the possibilities so much that the ending would have felt half-assed without it, as there wouldn't have been as much weight, if that makes sense. Even with this empty feeling that built through the entire anime, at least I can feel like in his final moments, David was satisfied with being able to make at least a few people's dreams come true. The final section, with Stay at Your House playing once again, is the cap-off of the series I mentioned earlier. The culmination of the relationships made, the emotions felt, the technical aspects like the amazing art style and the music that brings a tear to my eye on repeat watches. While this anime was extremely short, it bursted onto the scene, created immense emotional damage, and left nearly as fast as it appeared. And all we viewers have to show for it is the battle scars of watching yet another amazing anime that tugged at the heartstrings and created memories that we'll hold on to forever. Thanks for watching.
So what do you want?
Also, fuck Atom Smasher.
So